Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of A Teen's Take. And this is a new series that I'm creating with my friend Doc and your son London.
Yes.
And London is how old are you, London?
I am 16, going on almost 17.
You are 16,
Yes.
going on 17.
Yes.
Wait, that's from some movie or something like that, right?
8 foot, 7 foot, 3 foot bunch.
Yeah. So you're
It's like how I completely screwed up that song.
so you are literally a teenager right now.
Yeah.
It's the year is 2022.
Yeah.
Me and Doc, I'm 50. You're in your late 40s.
Yeah,
And what we find
the check engine light's starting to come on.
Oh yeah, my check engine light
Definitely
has been on.
Definitely has.
So we find it. London. You have good taste in
Yes,
movies.
I do.
Yes, you do. And I thought what it would be interesting is to get your take on movies that we love, that you love too.
Yes.
And I thought the very first movie that we should talk about is one of my favorite movies of all time.
And one of mine.
Yeah, and that's The Shining.
One of the greatest horror films ever.
Do you feel that way?
Yeah.
And you know what's funny about that is that when it came out, it was considered a bomb.
And I got
Was it?
so scared at one point watching that. I was just like, ah.
That's what a horror movie is supposed to do. And that will forever be burned in your mind.
Yeah.
What,
I
what's,
remember
no,
it.
hold on. What scene? Any scene in particular?
It's the scene when Jack Torrance is in the bathroom in...
The naked lady.
Yeah, the naked lady in the bathroom.
What's
Yeah.
her name?
Does she have a name?
I don't think so.
You used to know her name.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
anyways.
yeah,
The
anyway.
lady in the
I don't
bathroom.
know her-
Everybody knows.
I don't know her name, but I can imitate her. You want to hear it?
Sure.
Yo!
It's almost like she's like Pirates of the Caribbean. Yo-ho, 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 yo.
Yeah.
So what year did this movie come out? 1980.
1980, yeah.
1980. So the movie is...
Always remember, like, one of my first memories, I was like 3 or 4, but being at a theater and seeing, like, the coming attraction is, like, coming
Yeah.
summer or May of 1980. And I just remember that face. And I always thought it was Jack Nicholson's face.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be the little boy's face, but it's just like this snow-washed
Is that what that's supposed to be?
face. But I almost think it's Scatman Crothers' character's face when he's sitting there in the bed going, oh,
Yeah, no.
doing The Shining and seeing the visuals.
The only thing I remember from that scene is the paintings of the naked,
Just the naked women,
chicks with the afros behind them.
out to here.
The fact that this is a movie that came out even before you were born, why do you feel it's one of the best movies ever made?
One of the reasons is because it scared the living crap out of me while I was just by myself in my dad's apartment while he was outside doing what he was doing
Yeah.
at the time. And I was
To set the scene, I sat my son in front of The Shining
Yeah.
and said, it took a while to get to the point where I'm like, okay, I think I'm finally ready to enjoy The Shining with my son. So, long story short, I'm cooking dinner. I step outside, and in this complex I live in, I forget my keys. So I'm locked out of the apartment complex,
Yeah.
and I'm in my underwear because that's just what I do. I just go out to the car. I'm too lazy to put on pants, and I don't think anybody gives a shit. So I'm in my underwear, and I can't get in. No keys, no way of calling.
not good.
Yeah.
And I've left my son alone in front of the screen watching The Shining. So I scale the fence barefoot in underpants to get in there, and I swear to God, I come in right at the scene with the woman,
It was so bad.
and he's just doing this. And I'm thinking, he's scared. I'm thinking, he's scared. It's working. Cool. This is a great, father-son moment.
No,
I just don't.
my fear is like he's probably thinking, is that how women are naked? Is that what they look like?
I'm going to be celibate for the rest of my life.
No, I literally,
It frightened him. He was
Yeah.
really disturbed because I went over there. Hey, what'd you think of that? And he was just like, "That's the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life." And I went,
I acted like I just saw the boogeyman.
yeah.
It was terrifying for me.
I feel like I didn't earn cool father.
Yeah,
points.
you were
Like,
you were the
You're probably screwed up
du-
from it to
yeah,
this day.
douchebag dad.
douchebag dad.
No, you would have been the worst dad in the planet if you would have showed him the Stephen
Requiem
King.
for a Dream?
No, the Stephen King made-for-television version of The Shining first.
Yeah.
That would have been. Then you wouldn't have been.
Then I would have said, "Here, this movie is more faithful to the actual novella."
Now, here's the question: have you ever read the book?
No.
Have you ever read the book?
I've read both books, and what I find intriguing about those books,
Yeah, you're talking
Because of
about you're talking about Doctor Sleep.
I'm talking about Doctor Sleep.
Okay.
I read Doctor Sleep, and I read The Shining pretty much around the same. Well, I read The Shining a few years before. I read The Shining way after I saw the movie,
Yeah.
and those are both they're AA books.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at the time I was going through recovery when I was reading Doctor Sleep.
Yeah.
And that is a total AA story. That is what that is. And then when I read The Shining, it's, you know, yes, it's a horror movie and it's a horror story. But you can tell the basis of that is alcoholism and dependency. That's
Yeah.
what I got out of it when I was reading, and it's probably because of what I was going through at the time. But, you know, the movie that I grew up with, the Stanley Kubrick, The Shining, is not that. You know, that is a totally different entity
Yeah.
than that book. And in a lot of ways, I think it's better. You know, I can appreciate and I love what Stephen King's story was about The Shining. I know what it is. But Stanley Kubrick's vision and those visuals you'll never forget those. I mean, you'll never forget that music. He didn't have one composer scoring that movie. There was about like 4 different composers.
Yeah.
And it was just the most bizarre music. You know, he had, you know, Wendy Carlos, you know, who's amazing at what
Shelley Duvall.
she does. No, Shelley Duvall was the actress. I'm talking about people composing the music. You know?
Which she did a great job.
She did, you know, and she did one of those performances, like so many great performances that affected her life long after.
Yeah.
You know, she was tortured through that film.
Yeah.
What she went through. There's a behind the scenes documentary, and you know, she was pulling her hair out of her head. And I don't think she fully ever recovered from that. Based on all the interviews and everything you've seen and what you actually saw, what went into making that movie. Even Jack Nicholson, you know, he said that is the only movie I would go home at the end of the night and I would just fall asleep because I was so exhausted. Because that was Stanley Kubrick, you know, I was just working with him. He was, you know, just, I don't know what it was like working with Stanley Kubrick, but I can only imagine. Pretty meticulous, you know, doing take after take after take after take after take after take after just that
Just exhausting.
insanity,
Just
you know.
exhausting.
But the final product, I think, was ahead of its time because when that film came out, most people, they go to a movie and they've read the book, especially at that time. You know, it was like you just had a book. And when you read a book, like you have no movie or anything to base it off of, and you just have your visual, you go into a movie, and I can see where a movie lets you down because you're attached to that book you read, and you created this visual in your own mind based on the words you're reading, and then you go see somebody else's interpretation. And most people, you know, they kind of stick to the plot, but that movie was, like I say, it's a different entity than that book. There is something genuinely spooky about it. There's something about the sets. There's something about the lighting, you know. It stays with you. Just, I always dreamed of walking through those halls of that hotel.
Yeah.
I thought for years that was like a real hotel. I didn't, you know, but then later on you realize, no, those were sets. You know, I've only gone to the actual hotel, the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park in Colorado.
Yep.
Spent the night there. That's where Stephen King, you know, was inspired to write The Shining. Mm-hmm. And it's a great hotel. It's beautiful. It's got a creep factor to it. And then where they shot the exteriors, you know, the Timberline Ski Lodge in Mount Hood.
Yeah, down,
you know,
down in Oregon.
You go there and you're standing in front of it. You feel you go like, ooh, this is great. You see you see Mount Hood behind it. But when you walk in, it's a ski lodge.
Yeah, it's not.
You're basically a nerd walking around because there's skiers there, and it's all about skiing. And I'm in there. Can I see the Jack Nicholson axe?
So London, how? Kind of give us a little some. What's The Shining about? What is this movie about? In your opinion, what is it?
It's it's about a little family of 4 going to a little hotel in the mountains, and
Family of four.
yeah.
Who's the fourth person?
Who's the fourth person?
Jack,
Tommy. Tony.
Tony?
Tony,
Tony.
yeah, Tony, yeah,
Tony.
Tony.
I don't know, Mrs. Torrance.
Yeah, yeah, it's them going to the hotel in the mountains.
Yeah.
And, stuff goes awry, like, slowly and pretty creepily.
That was the thing that I loved about The Shining is this slow
It's a slow
change.
burn.
Yeah,
You see Jack Nicholson
just kind of just
slowly
just becoming
becoming
crazy.
who he's going to become.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what's happening there? I mean, there's a lot of things happening there, but cabin fever, have you ever felt like you're going a little crazy, like if you've been in a small place at the same time for like a long period of time?
Yeah.
Like, say, have you ever been stuck at home for weeks
Yeah.
and you feel like you're going a little like everybody's kind of on edge? Like,
Yeah, that's COVID.
The world's turning.
the last 2 years is The Shining.
Yeah.
So do you think what happens in the movie, or what happens, do you think that all was essentially inevitable? That it was going to happen one way or another?
Yeah, at one point in time, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the thing you always think about is like, is it almost like Jack's destiny? Because, he's in this picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of
Front-
like...
front and
you
center.
That's
know,
what, yeah, and that's...
You've always been the caretaker.
And that's the one thing I've never understood about the film, and that's why I still love the film, because it's like, has he always been there? Like, you've always been the caretaker, or is he just another manifested? Is Jack Torrance this one, entity that, depending on which family comes in, takes over?
that's
Because you
what it
see
is.
it in Doctor Sleep.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
do.
Like Lloyd, the bartender, becomes Jack.
Yeah,
And
which is
Jack's
pretty cool.
now Lloyd, the bartender.
Yeah, he's part of
And,
the...
and it's phenomenal. So
Part of the hotel.
there's a lot of different interpretations with that, but I think at the end of the day, it's like he's part of that hotel.
Yeah.
Besides the naked lady, where were some other scary parts in the movie that you...
Towards the end, I think it was Wendy. I think she was going up the stairs and she looks into one room and there's like another guy boning another guy or having
Yeah.
sex with another guy.
Yeah, like wearing like a
And I'm
dog collar.
I'm still just kind of freaked out. Just
Father
like,
of the
And you-
year.
just kind of shaking. I'm like,
No, and I agree with
And
you.
it's
I
not
think
that
that's
they're
one of the
doing-
most disturbing scenes in the movie because you're like, what the hell's this?
Not the fact.
yeah,
I mean, they brought fuzzies in. They were making fuzzies popular before
Yeah.
fuzzies
Furries,
were popular.
the furries.
Or furries.
Yeah.
furries. Yeah, furries.
So here, I'll be honest with you guys. Like, obviously, I did not see The Shining in 1980. I got into slasher films, going more into like more like 82, 83, 84, or something like that.
Yeah.
So like when I got into horror films, there was already Jason Voorhees.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw Friday the 13th Part 3 in the theater. Halloween has already been out, and actually, I think the first Nightmare on Elm Street is now out.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I always I had these like slasher characters, and I thought what made Freddy Krueger really cool is you have this killer, but he has like one-liners, and it kind of made him special. And not to compare Jack Nicholson
Yeah.
to these killers, but I did as a kid, and just everything here's Johnny. Just everything he says, like almost every line, like once he kind of turns evil,
Yeah.
is just gold to
nuts.
me. I think. Well, what's your opinion of Jack Nicholson's character, Jack Torrance, in the movie?
Just an average guy. And he gets freaked out, but he sees some stuff and he doesn't think straight.
Yeah.
Cabin fever.
Yeah,
You think that
yeah.
that's a lot of that's in his head?
Yeah.
Or do you think that the actual hotel is haunted? Or is it really just him
You think it's
going crazy?
You really think
because-
it's just him because that's what you see when you see the film.
Because that is one
You see
interpretation.
him just
That's a
slowly
good question. So when he's at the bar
Yeah.
and Lloyd's there,
Yeah.
is Lloyd really there?
No.
Or is it literally just in Jack's...
It's in his head.
Yeah.
Which is very normal. I
Yeah.
have conversations
People-
like
yeah,
that
people-
all day.
People have that kind of thing happen, and it's a little scary.
So that's what makes The Shining so spooky, because you
Yeah.
don't know how much of this is in his head, or is this actually like a haunted hotel and
Yeah.
a ghost?
Mm-hmm.
Because what it turns out from the outside world is this is a guy who loses his mind and attacks his family with an axe.
Yeah, which is
They don't. It's like the news. That's what the news is going to say. It's like, caretaker of ski resort goes on rampage, runs amok, attacks family.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was his story, he's like, no, there was these ghosts telling me to do it, saying I was part of the
Basically,
freaking
puppeteering
hotel my whole life, and I just wanted to make the ghosts happy.
Yeah.
We're talking about a movie that was made before you were born. You've obviously have seen other horror movies since then.
Yeah.
Why? What makes this better than all the others for you?
It's in second place to next to The Exorcist. The first time I saw The Exorcist, I cried, and I ended up having to watch Angry Birds afterwards.
I remember that fondly. Another home run in my fatherhood.
Yeah, good job, Dad.
For me, what makes The Shining so incredible is Jack Nicholson. For me,
Yeah.
that movie makes him my favorite actor, and he's so awesome in the movie, and just
And it's not just that. It's just it's the combination. It's like when we've talked about bands. What makes it, some of the greatest bands in the world.
Yeah.
It's these different like forms of energy that come together.
Yeah.
And it is Jack Nicholson, but it's also what Stanley Kubrick was
Yep.
doing. It's also the music. It's also the sets.
Yep.
Just the atmosphere.
yeah.
That's what makes that movie so amazing.
It's a film that I just love watching every time. Like it's really entertaining.
Yeah.
The suspense is still there. The acting from those characters are amazing.
Yep.
And you say it's entertaining to watch every time.
Yes.
And that movie is a slow burn.
Yes.
Yep.
And slow burns generally are a movie you'll watch like once, maybe twice, and then that's it.
And I think the interesting thing about the slow burn is that, like when I've gone back and I've watched The Shining a whole bunch of times, but you always think that it's like, it takes a while for him to start turning.
Yeah.
But then you realize, like, pretty much as soon as they get settled in, he starts turning.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's almost immediate.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't like he's cool for a while. No, like immediately.
No, he seems in a pissed off mood when he's driving up there.
Yeah.
That look on his face when he's
Yeah.
driving the family in the Volkswagen up the mountain.
It's okay.
Dad?
He looks like he's about to massacre his son.
Yes.
His family.
I'm hungry, and I know what this is like.
Yeah.
Well, you should have eaten your breakfast. You could tell he's just the pissed off, the breadwinner.
Yeah.
Just, I'm trying to make a living, and, I told this kid to eat his frickin' eggs
Yeah.
this morning, and he just looked at him like it was a Cuisinart, and now he's hungry, and I'm in the middle of the mountains, and there's not a frickin' McDonald's on the way to the frickin' hotel. But he's hungry, and as a parent, you're like, I gotta feed my kid, and now I'm in the middle of
You
nowhere.
just want to strangle your son.
That's what it'd be easier.
It's like, why wouldn't you do this?
So
Should
maybe
have done it
that-
like
that's
40 minutes ago.
Probably
So
why
wait.
he chased him around with an axe.
So that was so needless to say, that's the most relatable scene in that movie. You're like, yeah, I've been there.
That look on his face says it all. When you're just driving,
It's just like, don't mess with me. Don't mess with me.
the wife is sitting there, we must be really high up. And he goes, yeah, we're on a fucking mountain. Yeah.
So that movie is 1980. So that means the movie is what, 42 years old, something like that.
42 years old.
So were you even born yet?
No.
Now that being
He
said,
wasn't even an itch in my pants yet.
Yeah.
thanks for that. Thanks for that visual. Like, yeah, it's gonna be London someday.
Yeah.